Today's flowers are super simple with two colours, yellow and burnt sienna. And I've got a diamond shape that I've very vaguely sketched out, very vaguely, but I want to have some structure to the painting. So that structure is going to come in the form of a diamond. You can probably just see the little dots, but it's a diamond shape like that. And I'm going to make all the flowers sit within that shape. I'm going to be giving them a petal and a petal for the first layer and a little bit of colour at the base of each petal, and each one will have a similar sort of thing. Up here I'll put a petal and a petal over there, and then again at the base of these I'm going to put in a little bit of colour, or maybe that one can have a touch extra. Right, so I'm going up that way, so I'm going to put one that touches this one petal, and that petal can be a little different and go that way. And again, a little bit of colour at the bottom. Go back to my yellow. Now you can see that this wet in wet is barely moving, and that tells you that my burnt sienna and yellow mix is a little thicker than the yellow. If you want it to move faster, match viscosity, or you can make it wetter and it'll push the colour about. I'm going to continue putting in, maybe I'll put in a little bud over here, and it can be a little round shape like so. And I'll give it a stem much later on. Tiny little bit of colour sitting into it. Come down here. I think a little bud will go very nicely over there too. And a little bit of burnt sienna mix. Right, so one here, little petal, and so maybe it'll have a bigger petal and a smaller petal. I'm trying to make sure that each one just varies that tiny bit. And they're all going to have stems that come down in between these two bottom ones here. How about over, I'll have one that goes right to the edge over there, and one that touches this one here. The touching is surprisingly important. It kind of gathers things together, and I think it looks more naturalistic, even though it's not really going to look that natural in the end. This brush is peeling, unfortunately. I left it sitting in water and I've ruined the handle. Very slowly, but I have ruined it. A little bit more water, I think. A bit of watery petal there. Make one go that way over there. Well, that's a much bigger one. And again, down the bottom is the mix, the burnt sienna mix. Yeah, I'm going to have stem, stem, stem coming down like that. Do I want some more? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I love odd numbers. So I think I will put in an extra one that can go this way. 1 and 2. I've gone straight over that little dot of pencil. So I'm going to put a bit of burnt sienna on that, because then I won't notice it later on. And the same up here, I went over the pencil, so I'll put a bit of burnt sienna on that a little later. Okay, am I happy with the design? I've stayed very nicely within my diamond. I could put in a little tiny bud over here. Maybe it goes outwards, this one, like that. And again, a little tiny bit of burnt sienna. Make it a little more interesting, gives it a little bit of tone, which gives it just that little bit of form, which is lovely. Now I'm going to come back in and give each of them a third petal. So at the moment I've only done 2 petals, and each are going to get a third petal, and I need it to be dry in order to do that. It is so close to being dry. The next petal can be more transparent. So more water will make my colour even more transparent, runnier. There's little bits of purple on the sides here, so I don't mind it picking up tiny bits. It's just kind of greying it down a little bit. Okay, the third petal on each one will be glazed over it. A little bit like that, and a little bit of colour in its base. And this is a bud, so I'll just give it a little bit of extra interest on one side, and again tiny bit of colour, and I'll just go around each flower and do that. This one might have one in the centre there, and a bit of colour. Lovely watery mix. This one can have a second petal out there. I know it's a bud, but I'm just giving it a little extra form. This one could definitely do with a central petal. It's kind of central. And a little bit of colour on it. The beauty of watercolour is its transparent nature. So I love to think up things that are just all about how to use the transparent nature of watercolour, because it really sets it aside from other mediums in its simplicity, in the fact that it can so simply glaze over itself, and that's just with water. It's so easy to do, to be glazing in watercolour. So easy. Back to this one, and a third petal up there. Back and forth constantly. And this one will have in the centre, or should it go? Yeah, they're too wide when they're on the side, so I'm going to put it in the centre, come down to its base, and a little bit of colour. I'm going to dry that again, and this time what I'm going to do is erase any, no, I won't erase it yet. I'll put in the stems. So I've been using burnt sienna and yellow for the darker tone at the bottom. I'm going to grab a little more burnt sienna and mix it in, straight in to this colour here, which is just burnt sienna and yellow, and I've been using cad yellow. But you can see that even cad yellow is capable of that incredible transparency. You just need more water. Okay, and I'm going to do stems with this lovely yellowy browny colour, and they're all going to come down to within this centre here. I'll start with these front ones. Oh, it's just occurred to me that I should totally switch brushes and use a use this little liner brush. I love this little liner brush. It's a Richardson 9704. So they're going to come from the base and come down like that. And come from the base and come down like that. Come from the base and go down like that. This one is a bud, and it can go over that one down. This one was a bud going that way. I think I'll make it go over the flower. Oops, over the, oopsie, over the flower and down. This one can go behind the flower and down. This one can go behind as well. I think I need quite a few more behind. It's too easy to make them all be in front. There. Oh, here's this bud. It can come up through that flower into there, and then we'll continue its journey along here and down like that and shorten it. And the final one, this has got one, that's got one, that's got one, this one's got one. They've all got it. So for the final touch, a little more burnt sienna into the mix, just a teensy bit more. Actually, that was a lot more, wasn't it? And I'm going to just add little tiny touches of burnt sienna at the base of each flower, and suggest little calyxes there. Just an absolute suggestion, little touchy. That's from that one. Oh, I didn't give that one a stem, did I? But you can't tell. So maybe I don't have to give it a stem. This one can have a base coming up there. So I just want to sit it behind that one and make that a little darker. This one went over the flower. So I think that I will continue that journey down. The alternative is to try and scrub it off, and that's never my favourite thing to do. Always possible, but oh, this one's calling for a little tiny calyx. And that was an incredibly fast, that stem's a little fat, incredibly fast little posy of flowers, yellow flowers with burnt sienna details. Oh, I haven't given this one. That goes over there. That's wet, and that's why it's stopped there. This one needs the calyx and come down. So I've made a couple of the stems a little darker than the others, so that's quite nice. And this stem is thicker, but the flower is a bit bigger, so that's quite nice too. And I think that looks quite simple. And I'm going to get my eraser now and do something about the guidelines. I'm using a kneadable eraser so I don't have any dust to pick up off the page. That one's not coming off. And quite often I do end up using a second eraser. I definitely have a heavy touch, and I know that you can use lighter pencils, but I've got a whole stack of these Blackwing something. It's half the pressure, twice the speed. It's a Blackwing 602. It's just a little bit heavy, but I bought a whole box full because, well, okay, I've got no good reason for liking. Yeah, I just really liked using them. They glide over the page, but they're not ideal for sketching and removing. They're beautiful for pencil marks you're going to leave on the page. I'm being really careful as I come in close to that burnt sienna just there. I don't want to rub anywhere where the watercolour is still wet because it will go and do something mucky. All right, while I've got that lovely colour in my hand, I might go back to the yellow, add some more yellow, thick cadmium yellow, and add it. And I'm going to sign one name and one name, because you can sign your painting wherever you like, and you can make your signature be a part of the design. So that's what I'm attempting here. Marion, I'm left-handed, so I'll give that a second to dry before I put in the Chapman. So there you have it. It's a design where I kept the flowers within the structure of a diamond shape, and it's amazing what a bit of structure will do for your designs and your work. I think that's probably dry enough for me to finish painting my signature, Chapman, and I'm done. I think that's really quite satisfying. They look like flowers. It was a lovely little exercise in glazing, as well as a bit of structure to the painting. So thank you so much for joining me, guys. If you got anything out of this video, please press like or make a comment. I absolutely love the feedback that you give me. See you next time, guys. Bye.